Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about cybersecurity, specifically XDR technology, which is certainly getting a lot of buzz these days. To discuss that, I'm joined by George Tubin, Director of Product Strategy at Cynet. George, very good to have you with us today.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's talk about XDR. It feels like XDR is a technology that is still on its way up. It hasn't reached its full potential quite yet. Would love to get your sense, what is XDR? How do you define it? And why is it still a growing solution?
It's a great question, and it's a question that is continuously being asked. There was just a flurry of activity over on LinkedIn where the same thing. Somebody said that there's still so much confusion around XDR right now.
Right.
It actually is a topic that's not settled yet. Industry analysts at the major firms come in and they have their definition of what XDR is and should be. They're all slightly different. The vendor community comes at it, and they all have their own definitions. And not surprisingly, some of the definitions are very self-serving to whatever technology it is that they started with. They're kind of building out from there, and then the market too. When what I saw was a recent survey where one of the analyst firms asked CISOs across industries how they defined XDR, and it was very widely varied. Nobody has settled on a specific definition of it.
Can I, before, I think you probably have a really good definition. Can I give my own definition? And I want to check it with yours, which I'm sure you're closer to the market. I think of XDR as like next generation EDR, extended detection and response, better than endpoint detection and response. But really, when I think about XDR, I think, oh, it's XDR, and it leans heavily on artificial intelligence. Agree, disagree with that definition?
So that's partially agree.
Okay, all right, good. At least I got it part of the way right. I'm glad to know about that.
Yeah, certainly, a lot of folks feel that XDR should be built on EDR. It's kind of the foundation of XDR. And if you look back to some of the original mentions of XDR, it really was the industry saying, hey, this EDR thing we have is pretty good. Really like the way this tool works, better than a lot of the other ones we have. If we could only make these few changes to it and add this, add that, I think it would be a lot better. So, I think fundamentally XDR is just a better way to do threat detection and response. The way we've been doing it isn't working well, whether that's using EDR along with other tools or relying on a SIM to collect log management and try to weed through that to figure out where threats were and then respond to threats. We've invested so much money. There's so many tools, and we still don't feel comfortable. We still don't feel like we have a strong threat detection and response capability. And I think one interesting way to look at it is really by use case. And I always like to make things really simple, so it helps my simple understand it.
Yeah.
And I think if what I really look at is large enterprises and their unique circumstances that they're in, and then small to medium-sized enterprises who live in a very different world and very different set of circumstances. So if you're a large enterprise, you've invested a lot of money and a lot of tools, and you're trying to integrate the tools and run the tools, and you're getting signals, alerts are coming out, and you're chasing down these alerts. And we keep hearing about alert overload.
Right.
The security operations center, the SOC, is just overloaded, and we're trying to figure out a way to get our arms around this. So in that situation, we have a lot of vendors talking about the so-called open XDR approach or hybrid XDR approach, where XDR kind of becomes the central point to feed in all these signals, all these points of telemetry in real time, then do the analysis on everything together to better identify threats with more accuracy, be able to detect things that maybe are slipping through the cracks right now. And then be able to respond to the threats in this one central place, rather than having to go out to a lot of different solutions. Now,
well, it is correct to say that XDR really is next generation EDR. I mean, they're not really two different creatures. One is a more advanced version of the other, correct?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can certainly look at it. I mean, some people argue that XDR is maybe an advanced form of SIM.
Hmm.
So it's taking, the log collection and analysis and using real-time signals to feed into it. So
Mhm.
I think you could arrive at it from different ways. I like your definition better because I think we've proven that EDR is more capable of doing real-time threat detection and response than SIM ever has been.
Mhm.
Um, so I mentioned large enterprises. For small, medium-sized enterprises, they almost have an opposite problem.
Hmm.
Don't have sufficient budgets. They don't have sufficient staff. They can't afford all the tools that a large organization can afford to be able to detect threats. They don't have the ability to integrate the tools together, even if they were able to buy them. And they don't have any kind of automated response capability. Everything is done manually.
Sure.
So they live in a very different world. They need more capabilities that are pre-integrated and automated so
Mhm.
they can go from maybe a simple EDR solution or an antivirus solution into a more robust platform that's able to look at threats across the environment and respond to them in an automated fashion.
That market is tends to look more for a one size fits all solution, where the large enterprise market, they need best of breed. So they might be cobbling together 10 or a dozen different tools with best of breed. And of course, they've got the staff to manage all those different, spinning plates. But the SMB market tends to want more of a just make it work for me solution.
Exactly right. Yeah, if you're in a large enterprise, you maybe have your favorite EDR solution, you have your favorite network detection and response solution, you have your favorite, email filtering solution, and
Mhm.
you want to keep all those because you invested in them. You just want to pull them together and make them work better. And you're right. In a smaller organization, it doesn't have anything. They like, bring me the ability and have it all pre-integrated and packaged so I could just run this and protect my organization.
Mhm. So let's look at the XDR market, which is clearly growing, a lot of interest in it. What are a couple of trends you see shaping things this year and probably going into 23?
I think we're still seeing a lot of struggle to understand what XDR is and what it could bring,
Mhm.
to the different markets. What we just
Mhm.
talked about, I don't think is being talked about a lot, and a lot of companies maybe don't understand. A lot of smaller organizations are being approached by these so-called open XDR vendors to integrate all their technologies, but they don't have technologies to integrate. So they're thinking like, geez, I have to go out and buy all this stuff. How am I going to do it?
Mhm.
So I think we're through these discussions, we're continuing to improve the understanding of what XDR can be. And I think we'll start to see some of the vendors. I mean, almost everybody's claiming that they're an XDR vendor now because it's the hot topic.
Right, right.
So, whatever I do, I'm also an XDR. Um, I won't really explain how that is, but I want to use the XDR term.
Sounds, I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. Yep.
Yeah. So we'll start to see, those vendors fade away, and we'll start to see, a handful of stronger XDR vendors emerge. Um, and I think we'll start to hear a lot more about the outcomes that are being achieved with XDR packages. Because right now we've kind of been on the sales cycle where we're talking about what it is and what it could do for you.
Mhm.
But until those solutions are actually implemented and we actually get real world results, will we know what XDR can actually do for a company? So, some of that information is coming out, through the analyst firms. But they're being, kind of secretive about it because, secure, companies never want to let on about what they're doing for security for fear
Sure.
that,
Right.
you criminals might find out about it. But I think we'll start hearing more and more about the benefits that are being brought by XDR solutions.
Mhm.
Um, and that being said, I think it really is um, a time. We've been through a great period of expansion where we constantly have been seeing
Mhm.
new tools and new capabilities. And like anything else, I think we need a period of kind of contraction where let's
Mhm.
let's move to fewer solutions, but more capable solutions that really do what we need to get done, rather than continuously throwing tools at the problem and hoping that we get good results.
So let's drill down into Cynet itself. How is Cynet addressing the security needs of its clients? Why choose Cynet as opposed to some of the other cybersecurity vendors out there?
Yeah, so Cynet started to develop XDR before the industry was calling this thing XDR. And to your point, it kind of grew out of an EDR solution.
Mhm.
Um, And you know, I kind of look at, you know, an XDR solution that serves small to medium-sized enterprises, which is what Cynet does. You know, we
Okay.
focus right on that market. So rather than the Fortune 1000 or Fortune 100, we focus more on that kind of next level of company that can't go
Aha.
up with all these solutions.
Okay.
We really have four key things, I think, that we bring to the table with the XDR solution. Everything is built into one solution. You don't have to go out and buy all these additional tools. But you know, the first pillar is visibility,
Hmm.
and it's providing visibility across the environment, you know, and bringing all these signals together into one central point to be able to detect threats with a lot more accuracy and fidelity.
Mhm.
The second thing we bake in is very strong response automation. So, you know, especially when you get into the small and mid-sized enterprises, these folks can't afford a so-called SOAR tool that a lot of larger enterprise has, and that's a tool that kind of automates response across the organization.
Right.
So, you know, we kind of have that capability built into the platform, so you could do automated response and playbooks and kind of these very advanced things that you can only up till now do if you went out and bought a separate complicated source solution.
Mhm.
The third thing
We should do the acronym, just security orchestration automated response.
very good. Yeah, I
Oh,
often forget
thank. I get 1,000 bonus points for that, but please
that.
continue on.
Yeah, and I was hoping you would say what it was because I always forget. I always like mess up one of the words.
There's
So
so many terms out there, especially in the cybersecurity market. There's SIM, XDR, EDR, SOAR. There's a lot of acronyms in the security market. There really is.
really, there really are. Yeah, and it's hard to keep up with them. Um, yeah, so the third pillar kind of is an MDR, managed detection and response
Mhm.
services, that's offered along with the product. Because, you know, again, as you're a smaller organization, you probably don't have the skills, you can't go out and get all the people you need. So there's a
Mhm.
human element that can be provided behind the platform.
Mhm.
And then lastly, it's the same but different, but it's kind of building out a lot of these adjacent technologies that are needed, that a lot of smaller companies can't afford. Things like you know, cloud security posture management, SaaS
Mm.
security posture management, to make sure
Mhm.
you're not introducing risk to your you know, SaaS applications and cloud applications. And
Mhm.
you know, these smaller vendors don't want to have to go out and buy separate solutions, so this is included.
Right.
Centralized log management. So, you know, a lot of companies go out and buy an expensive SIM and then don't really use the SIM. They just use it to collect logs. So we offer a CLM tool within there as well. So it's,
Mhm.
and there'll be a couple more announcements coming up. So it's providing kind of this threat detection and response platform, but also trying to build out other capabilities that we think are important for the small, medium-sized enterprise market.
Mm. So, all right, I think the big question is the future of XDR and cybersecurity. And specifically, it seems like sometimes the good guys don't appear to be winning. It's like hackers three, good guys one. It's like, it feels like as I go back and forth, I'm not sure we're really secure. We feel like we're not.
Yeah.
What do you think a few years ahead of, look ahead, 2026, 2020, 2028? Is XDR really going to make us safe, or are we ever going to be truly safe from the hackers out there? Just looking to the future, what's your take for the future of security?
Yeah, I don't. We'll never be completely safe,
Right.
unfortunately.
I'm afraid you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, unless we turn off the internet, and maybe even then, you know, we won't be that safe. But I
We need to
think,
go back to paper if we want to be safe, but we're too
yeah,
slow, though. That's a problem.
right, exactly. Um, I think we'll see a lot more automation. I think automation is key, and it's key not to replace humans, but I think to deal with a lot of the mundane tasks that take up a lot of people's time, as well as being able to work at machine speed. You know, these attacks come so frequently and so often, and they're often at times, you know, so advanced that being able to discern them and see that something's happening that you need to pay attention to becomes very difficult because we're just overloaded.
Mhm.
So I think, you know, relying on the automation to do that for us becomes very important, you know, to supplement the human intelligence so that the humans can go and do the other things that humans do well.
Right.
Um, so I think we'll see XDR play a role in that, because XDR is a tool that's coming in to do, you know, this real time. threat detection and response, unlike SIM technology. I think it'll do exactly what you said earlier. It'll take EDR, which is a really good tool that we've seen working really well, but now really expand it to the entire corporate environment.
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be amazing, and I hope the artificial intelligence piece. You talk about how it relieves humans of some of the things humans do, and it automates things. I hope that does really work. At any rate, George, thank you so much. That fascinating stuff. It's going to be a cool sector to watch in the years ahead. Appreciate your expertise, and I hope you come back and talk with us again sometime.
Really was. Thanks so much. Enjoyed. I always love talking about this subject. So thanks. It was great speaking.